Hello and welcome back to Chapter 6 Notes. And so in this lecture video, we're going to go over a few problems involving activity-based costing. Okay, so let's look at this first one. Classic Brass makes two product lines for luxury yachts, a standard product and a custom product. Okay, Brass has already gone through an activity and classified their activity cost pools as the following. So they've already done steps 1 through 3 of activity-based costing, where they had their interviews and they identified some of these as they identified the major activities, and then they identified the costs that go with each activity, and then they identified the cost driver, also known as the activity measure, with each cost pool, the cost driver for the cost pool. Brass has gone through and identified its indirect or overhead costs. Now you can see these are indirect product costs. These are indirect period costs. And what we're going to eventually do is we're going to allocate out both product and period to the products, to the units that we sell, to the products that we sell, in order to get a better idea of the true profitability. Okay. I do have an asterisk right over here. It says that shipping costs, and they are directly traced. So what this is saying is that initially, in the initial cost pool, before we did activity-based costing, our Classic Brass Incorporated had shipping costs, had identified shipping costs as an indirect cost. But after the process of activity-based costing, they went through and they said, okay, we think we can directly trace the shipping cost to the products that we make. So in that case, we're going to classify it as a direct cost rather than an indirect cost. And so in that case, we're not going to allocate out the shipping costs. We'll directly trace those costs to the products that we make. Okay? Let me say over here, this page is a little bit more detailed of each activity cost pool. So the first activity cost pool, for example, customer orders, is right over here. And it says customer orders costs will be assigned to all costs of resources that are consumed by taking and processing customer orders, so the cost of processing customer orders, which would be paperwork and any cost involving a machine and setting up machines. This is a activity measure would be the number of customer orders. This is batch level, since each order generates work that that occurs regardless of whether the order is for 1 unit or 1,000 units. So it's a batch level activity. So it needs to be done. Setting up equipment has to be done regardless of whether we make 1 unit or 1,000 units. It doesn't matter. We still have to set it up, so it's in a batch level activity. Product design cost pool, which is the second one right over here. The activity measures the number of product designs. So this is a product level activity, okay? And this will be assign all the costs of resources for designing a product, okay? It's a product level activity, okay? Order size cost pool, that's our next activity pool, order size, and the costs that correspond to order size will be assigned all costs of resources consumed as a consequence of the number of units produced, including the cost of miscellaneous factory supplies, power to run the machines. Okay, this is going to be a unit level activity. Customer relations is all the costs dealing with call centers and customer support. So sales calls and then entertaining customers. It doesn't say this here, but you could also include calls to customer support, call centers. And so the customer relationship, this customer relations right over here, the activity that measures the number of active customers. This is a customer level activity. And then these would be organization sustaining activities. And so that's what I say over here, they're organization sustaining activities. And so these are other costs would be maybe heat on the factory or something like that. You could say the IT support. Okay, so somebody who has to maintain the email server, for example. That would be an organization sustaining. And what we're saying over here is we're not going to push those down to the product level because there's no cause and effect. Okay, so we're just not going to allocate those out. Okay. So continuing on, this page talks about, this kind of gives the results of the interviews, okay? And so it says right over here, we did some interviews with the production supervisor, right? That would be the indirect factory wages, the wages of the production supervisors. And we said, where do you spend your time? And they said, well, I spend 25% of my time on customer orders, okay? I spend 40% of my time dealing with designing new products, okay? 20% of my time on orders on the order size cost pool, and then 10% with maintaining customer relations. And you can kind of see that, let's look down here at marketing, and so we interviewed some of the folks in the marketing department, and look where they spend their time, dealing with customers. And that makes total sense, right? And so you can see what we've done is we've done the interviews and we've said, where do you spend your time, and come up with these percentages, okay? So now what we could do with activity-based costing is we can try to take these percentages and then multiply it times the total cost to then allocate this cost to each cost pool, like that, okay? So I'm going to do the first one, and then I kind of will then just give the totals because I think you'll get the basic process right over there. Okay, so it says right over here, if we take our factory wages of $500,000 and we say the production line supervisors spend 25% of their time with customer orders, so what I would do is multiply that $500,000 times 0.25, and that will give me $125,000 right there. And then I'll do the same thing with product design. That gives me $200,000. And then order size is 20%, which is going to be the $100,000. And then customer orders, it says right over here, customer relations, is 10%. So it's going to be our $50,000. And then other, it says right over here, is 5%, which is going to be our $25,000. Then we can add across, and we get to that $500,000. So basically, what we can do with ABC is to use those interviews to help us allocate out the cost to the different cost pools, okay? And we would repeat that for all these different costs that we incur, okay? And so when we do that, and I kind of think you can figure this out, we could take our 20% of the factory depreciation right over here of the 300,000 times the 0.2 gives us the 60,000, and then we would repeat that to get to the total. So when you do that, when you add down, you would have our $315,000 for customer orders, $257,000 for product design, $380,000 for order size. We come over here, $367,500 for customer relations, $490,500 for other, and then we get our $1,810,000, which would be our total right over there. And you can see that's $40,000 less than the total overhead. And the reason for that is because we're going to directly trace the shipping costs, okay? So now what we can do is we can come over here and we can look on the next page and we can calculate out our activity rate. So basically this is like what we did back in Chapter 2. We're going to go ahead and calculate our predetermined overhead rate, but we do it for each cost pool. Okay, so the actual computations are very similar. We're going to determine the predetermined overhead rate by saying total cost divided by total allocation base gives us our rate, and then the rate times the amount of allocation base actually used is how much is allocated. Okay, so we come over here, if we look back over here, remember we had our total cost of customer orders of $315 right over here, and then we have our $257. Then we have our order size at $380, customer relations of $367,500, and then we had our $490,500. And we say our total orders, we think we're going to have 1,000 orders. So we take our total cost divided by our total orders, and what we'd have is $315 per order. Okay. Product designs, $257 divided by the 200. Gives us $1,285 per design. We take the order size of $380 divided by the 20,000 right over there, which would give us our 19 per MH machine hour, because you can see this is MH stands for machine hours. Customer relations, $367 divided by the 100 gives us $3,750 $6.75 per customer. And then this one we're saying, remember our organizational sustaining, we're not going to allocate, so we're going to say that's NA. Okay? So Windward Yacht, who's our customer, places an order for two products, a standard product and then a custom product. And then here's the information about the standard product. It says right over here, it's a standard design that does not require any new design resources. So it doesn't require any new design resources. That's what this is telling you. 400 units were ordered, but that was two separate orders. So two separate orders for 400 total units, okay? Each unit required 0.05 machine hours for a total of 200 machine hours, okay? The selling price per unit was 34 for a total price of 34 times the total units of the 400 gives us the 13,600. Direct materials for the 400 units, total 2,110. Direct labor for the 400 units was 1,850. Shipping cost was 180. On the custom side, we have a custom product that does require one new design resource. Okay, this was one order for a single unit. Okay, so it's one order. Each unit did require 4 machine hours. The selling price was $650. Direct materials was 13. Direct labor, so on and so forth. Okay, so now what we can do is we can come over here and we can allocate out the cost, the indirect cost, to making those two different products, the standard product and then the custom product. So remember our activity rate was 315, and it says right over here that it required, this is 315 per order. This was 400 units, 2 orders. Okay, 2 orders, so $630. Okay, product design, number was 1,285 per design. It did not require any new design resources, so 0. Order size was 19 per machine hour, and this one it says that it did require 200 machine hours. Okay, so the 19 times the 200 gives us $3,800. Customer relations, we're not going to deal with that now because that is a customer level activity, and then other we say is NA. Okay, remember that we're not going to even push out, and I'll talk more about customer relations down here. So we have our customer orders in, remember, it's 315, 1,285, order size is 19. Remember that we're just not going to deal with up here at the product level. And then we have our activity. Remember we had one order and we had one design. We had 4 machine hours. So we have our 315, 1,285, then 19 times the 4 gives us the 76. Now we can look at the product profitability, the product margin here. So you can say, remember we had our sales of 13,600, sales over here of 650. I got those from the prior page. Our direct materials cost was 2,110, and over here was 13. Direct labor cost was 1,850. Over here it was 50. 180 was our shipping cost, and that's given to us on the prior page. Remember that? 25 was our shipping cost over here. Our customer orders cost right up here was 630, and over here it was 315. Okay, and then what we had is product design is 0, but over here we had 1,285, and then over here we had our $3,800 for order size, and over here we had 76. So now we can go through and calculate up a product profitability, 5,030 for that standard, for the standard product. And the custom product, we could say it's a loss, though. And the way I got that is the 650 minus all my costs, 13,600 minus all my costs. Okay? So now what we can do is look at the customer levels. And this is where we're going to deal with our customer level costs. So we take our 5,030, and then when we have the loss, 1,014, gives us a total margin of 3,916. Now, if you look back over here, the cost per customer is 3,675. Remember, this is one customer that placed 2 separate orders. That's why we do this at the customer level, because it's one customer who placed 2 separate orders. So this is at the customer level. So we can't push it down to the product, because it doesn't make sense. It's at the customer level. So now when we subtract the 2, we get $241, which is our total customer margin. Okay? We're going to do another problem in the next lecture video on activity-based costing. Thanks.